and welcome back to HCS Weekly.
I thought, yo, this is my life. I have to go pro in Halo.
In my head, thought that was more efficient, and I guess I was right.
He was like the god. We would have to 2v1 like just to beat this guy. Like
I don't know, man. I'll try reaching it. You're like, oh, yeah, see you guys later.
A lot of Halo in my life, man. It's been a fun journey.
I love it. Hello, welcome back to HCS Weekly, your weekly destination for all things HCS. We are back. I'm your host, ShyWay. We've been gone from about a 2-week hiatus. I know we weren't here last week. Of course, we had DreamHack Anaheim. Hopefully, you guys got a chance to catch DreamHack Anaheim. We had a pretty incredible Halo Reach tournament, $50,000 on the line. I had the good fortune of hosting it, so hopefully you got a chance to see me there as well. I had a lot of fun at the event, maybe a little too much fun on Sunday night. I bumped my head. You might notice I got a Band-Aid on my forehead here. That's all I'm going to say about that. We'll move on from there. But it was a good event. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And new Halo news continues to come out. We got exciting things happening in Halo. Just today, actually, we got the announcement of Halo CE on PC. So finally we can get back to our roots with Halo CE. And exciting enough, we've got an incredible guest joining us later on the show who's a legend in Halo CE. And of course, before we get there, we've got our news. We got to break down what's happening in the world of Halo. I got MattyRums joining me from NoobCombo.com. Matty, how's it going?
Hey, dude, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm recovering.
Yeah, it looks like you'd be a little bit better.
I'm fine. What you can't really see is the I look frozen on my end. Okay, hopefully it's better. Is the blood? I burst a blood vessel in my eye, and it's like red on the right side. Anyway, I don't think. Hopefully you guys can't see that.
Yeah, you can.
It's been a weird week, but the event was great, and hopefully you're doing well too. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I've been busy.
Yeah.
Just busy.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
but I'm good.
Yeah, you're keeping up. I know I've been seeing Noob Combo updates from the event. You put up the winners. I love that you're keeping up with the competition, and of course, you got all the recent stuff coming up too. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. What do you got?
Like you mentioned, we had a surprise drop today. Halo CE Anniversary is now out on PC for Master Chief Collection. You can get it on Steam and Microsoft Store, just like Halo Reach.
Let's go.
Yeah, I don't think we weren't. A lot of people thought we had planned this, but it was a surprise to us too.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the new features you can expect. You have 60 frames per second, possibly more with the frame rate, which is still experimental. Okay. Has 4K UHD support, new Spartan customization model. You can. One thing I thought was pretty cool. You can switch between classic audio or the anniversary audio.
That's cool.
I know you can do that in the campaign with the graphics, so
right.
Cool
so it's a toggle in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Reach, you also, like I mentioned, variable frame rate and an adjustable FOV, which is still
kind of a game changer right there.
Yeah, still considered an experimental feature, so it might be still have some issues. Push to talk, which was a big one, and you can keybind it as well as text chat. Another feature which I thought was real cool. Just like you can change your button layout for each game specifically, you can now do that with your keybinds.
Right.
So I think that's pretty big.
Way more flexibility on a keyboard than you'd have with a controller, especially when you're comparing it to the original Xbox controller where people started. There's so much more you can do now to make it, perfect for yourself. So pretty cool.
Yeah. They added data center ping values, which you can now see, so you can see what your ping is, as well as other players. And as far as playlists go, the only ranked playlist right now is doubles with 2v2 with hardcore settings.
That is the current hardcore way to play, I know as well. 2v2 is there's still a community playing that. Okay. But they have all these social ones. Yeah,
and social, you have Slayer, Precision Slayer, Auto Slayer, Flag and Bomb, Zone Control, Asset Denial, Action Sack, Snipers, Free for All. Everything you'd come to expect.
Yep. I saw a tweet from Moses. He was saying it's just nice to see when he goes on Steam and there's a huge banner for Halo MCCs. The first thing he sees when he gets on Steam. That's cool to see. It's just, a platform like Steam, millions of people are frequenting this on a regular basis. And to have Halo up there is great. And we'll keep having that as more games come out, which is always exciting. We got playlist updates, of course.
Yep. For Halo Reach, you have Power Slayer rotates in for shoddy snipers. And they also added a Halo CE Anniversary playlist that rotated in. So you get the I think it's the maps and starting loadouts and whatnot.
Right.
And then as well for all of MCC, they're giving double XP through Monday the 9th. so you can rank up and get your unlocks.
Okay.
Then for Halo 5 on the 5th, the spring 2020 season begins, and Halo 3 Classic Throwback rotates into ranked playlist from March.
Okay. Right. So just continuing to update the playlist. You guys know they're rotating in the game types that we've seen before, and they continue to do that. I think that might replace something as well. I know they had Mythic, FFA. I wonder if that's staying.
Yeah, you're right. It didn't say what it was, but
yeah. Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Got an update from Mantra.
Yeah, they signed Diagram, which is pretty cool. He'll be competing for them in the next FFA event. If you remember, he was the free-for-all champion at Anaheim. He had a pretty awesome story. He wasn't even going to go, bought a last-minute ticket, slept in his car, went and bought a controller from Target so he can compete, and then ended up winning the thing. So,
and then getting signed.
Yeah, and then grabs a sponsorship deal.
Can you believe that? That's actually crazy.
I mean, of course, congratulations to them.
Yeah, and he was consistently a high performer in the FFA as well. Like coming into it, he had the best stats, and he won it. So really dominant performance from him. We'll see if he carries that into the upcoming Halo tournaments. I'm not sure if they'll continue with Reach. I mean, with CE and whatever comes out next, like I don't know if I think that's the end of Reach for now. That's what
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Tournament results in the meantime.
Yeah, we had 2 tournaments over the weekend. Tourney Times had a Halo 5 1v1. First place went to Bound, second was Scariotic, and third was Casey or Cassie. I'm not sure.
I think it's Casey. I think Casey was a Smurf.
I think there's a few Smurfs. Yeah.
Bound was saying it was Vemzy, I believe, who Vemzy is obviously another really good player. Right. I got a chance to watch it. It was a lot of fun to watch. Highly recommend you guys check out these tournaments. Bound's an incredible player. He streamed it, and he was hitting like record numbers too. I think he had over 200 viewers, which is good for a Halo 5 stream.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of fun. And shout outs to SWAT Nation once again for consistently running Halo events and having awesome prize pools. I'm sure they got another one coming up.
Yeah, they have one at the end of the month. It's like a birthday celebration one.
Sweet.
But the other tournament was the Pro-Am Series Halo 5 2v2.
Okay.
And first place, again, went to Bound and Neptune, which we're used to seeing. Second place went to Renegade and Septify. And then third went to Chthonic and Rahuma.
Interesting. I don't recognize the names.
That's why I think they might be Smurfs, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I don't know. It could be someone. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And then for upcoming tournaments, everyone's still in, I guess, recovery mode from DreamHack.
Sure.
All that I have is Saturday on the 7th. If you're in Australia, New Zealand, ESL Play is hosting online Halo 5 4v4s on Xbox and PC.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. If you're in, what you said, New Zealand?
Yeah, the Australian, New Zealand region.
Australia, New Zealand. Okay, well, there you go. Still a bit of a Halo community there, so they can enjoy that. For Halo 5, that's all we got for events. So kind of slim, I guess you could enjoy Halo CE is what you should be doing today.
Exactly.
It just came out. I guess that's all for the news then, Matty?
That's all I got this week.
All right, Matty, thank you so much for joining me.
You got it.
All right, that's all for the news today. I'm excited to bring our Halo CE legend onto the stream. Welcome, Zyos, to HCS Weekly.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm glad we could work this out on short notice and talk about perfect timing with the surprise release of Halo CE on the PC, just kind of out of nowhere. Just bam, drops it a few hours ago.
I know. Yes, thank you, by the way, so much for coming on. It was very short notice, and you were just very thankful to have you here. Of course, yeah, Halo CE comes out of nowhere, and we have you on, who you're like the undisputed 1v1 champion of Halo CE, aren't you?
Yeah, I was the reigning 1v1 CE champion before, right around the time Halo 2 came out. So, yeah, I was good Force player too, and usually would place top 2 on almost every 4v4 tournament we played in, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. So I was one of the foremost Halo CE players.
So an incredible legacy, and I had the good fortune of I was reading through your esportspedia today, trying to learn all about it, and I'd be happy to hear from you as well. I got a chance to meet you in Anaheim, though. Of course, you've been repping Team Mantra recently. How was the event for you? I think this isn't your first event with Mantra. How long have you guys been working together?
Well, this is actually the third event
that
I went with Mantra. So I was at UGC Atlantic City, and then I went to DreamHack Atlanta was the second event. Right. That was back in November. And this time we had different rosters each event, with the sole exception of Ace being the one player that we were really kind of rallying behind. Mm-hmm. Then we had, of course, the team that took first place in Anaheim. We had Falcated, Spartan, Boobadooboo, and Ace. So I've been there. I've just been kind of behind the scenes. In Atlantic City, I was playing in a Halo 1 2v2 side event with an old friend of mine. And but DreamHack Atlanta and DreamHack Anaheim, I just was there behind the scenes supporting the team and making sure they had the jerseys. And there was an equipment issue in Atlanta that I helped try to rectify with the team that we had there. But I'm super excited with how the team did when they were a top 4 team coming into Anaheim. And when they showed up on LAN, I think I probably credit Eli Royer here as giving us the edge to push us over the top because what I saw online, I mean, they scrimmed Sentinels, I think maybe 2 days before they needed to travel down or maybe the day before. And they were really struggling on CTF for some reason. But once they had the coach there to really just try to instruct them where to go and where they should be pushing, it was a different ball game. I mean, Sentinels would go up like 4-0 and five cap CTF in like 5 minutes on us. And they would have to start playing comeback at that point, too. But it just was everybody was firing on all cylinders. And Boobadooboo with the jetpack on Sanctuary, that was just, it was like I haven't felt that way since I was playing Tribes Ascend as a kid. That's kind of what it felt like.
Right.
Around and dislaunching people.
Oh my God! Shout out to
Sniper.
Yeah, and shout out to Tribes Ascend, by the way. Oh my God, that game is legendary. But Boo Boo, you're right. Boo Boo was the star of the tournament, I think, for sure. He took the tournament MVP. That's what everyone was saying as well. Mantra, of course, did incredible. And yeah, it wasn't just you. Like Mantra as a team is unbelievable. Like you got yourself. I tried to grab Karma as well. I know Karma was busy. And Elamite, like you said, who was a huge member as the coach. Help me round this team out a little bit. I know we got a couple of pictures on Twitter that we can maybe show in the background as well. We have you with the squad here. This is awesome. Like the full team. Are there more Halo legends that we don't know about that might be there as well?
We might be signing some more old school players here. We've reached out to several people. A lot of these people, unfortunately, they haven't been active in the community for a long time. But trying to get players such as Killer N involved and a few others. We just have to. I'm sure once we connect with them, we'll be able to get them on board. But that was. That's I love that photo. I'm glad we got an opportunity to take that too. So thank you for showing that. But all 5. Landmine Warrior. I just want to mention real quick. He is with Reciprocity right now, so he's not official Mantra, but he was filling in for the event. So he did a great job. So, so Atlantic City, of course, you went and you represented Mantra in Atlantic City. Before that, there must have been, I guess, like a hiatus. Like, when was the last time you had been to an event like that before? Okay, so there was a massive hiatus.
Yeah,
my last competitive event for MLG was sometime early. I can't remember. I want to say April 2006. Whenever the Dallas event of that year for Halo 2 was, and that actually it's my highest FFA placing at the time, but the team I was on, Exit Wounds, we placed top 8. And I'd had some issues with how Exit Wounds was practicing before the events. When I was practicing for the one-on-one World Cyber Games, for example, when you could still play online through XBC, I would try to play as many off-host games as possible to try to put myself at a massive disadvantage. Like I couldn't win in a heads-up fight because of how bad the delay was, so I was forced to try to outsmart the opponents. But they had a really fast internet connection, and they Vaughn and it was luck lived down in Houston, and they kept wanting to play on their connections. So that was my last event because I told them, I was like, dude, if we placed outside the top 4, and we ended up taking 7th place that event, and that was the lowest 4-4 placing I think I'd ever had. Usually I was at least anchoring top 4. I was like, you know what, dude, that's probably the last event. So it was about a 12-year hiatus since then, and I think there were a few other tournaments I played in after that. I think the last official tournament was something called CGS, maybe. Okay. They did a Halo 2 one-on-one tournament, and I got 3rd place in that. But that was my last official tournament, dude. That was towards the end of 2006. And after that, 12-year hiatus. So just coming back after a big break. Right. And I don't want to, because I want to go back into a little bit of your history and talk about that. I don't want to skip too far ahead with it. But what I was really just kind of asking was, with a 12-year hiatus, is it a different experience being at an event in, you said what, like 2006, and then coming back and it's like 2019? Did you remember what it was like? Was it very different? Did it feel kind of the same? Like, if things changed a lot? I know like back when Halo was on top, like you had these massive Halo posters and whatnot, but the environment, like I don't know if you've been in that kind of convention center tournament environment. Well, here we have this classic photo as well. Oh, that's a great one. I love T-Squared there on the side, just busting the Xbox controller out. Yeah. But it's they have changed a little bit. there was a lot more people back when Halo 2 was at its peak. I think the final event I played in, they were averaging about 200 teams per event. So for the free-for-alls, you had over 900 people that were trying to qualify. And so that's now when you go to I know Halo's in kind of hiatus in terms of we're waiting for Infinite to come out, but we're still averaging about 50 teams per event for these classic events. So, but it's different now because there's infrastructure in place to support these tournaments that didn't really exist back in the day. And like Twitter wasn't around, YouTube was in its infancy. Like streaming an event live, that was a non-option. Like they would record the videos and then air them later. But now you can get a lot more hype generated just by getting a lot of audience engagement just live in real time, and that really helps push esports forward. So like I have no idea how hard it would be to just set up an internet connection or something like that that's strong enough to support it just at all these locations that they're doing these events on. But the people in charge of that do a great job. So it's but that's the biggest thing I've noticed so far. But there was a lot of similarities too. I mean, like the stations facing back to back, that's more or less what I remember. I mean, they were on obviously it was on a PC. So they were using PC monitors and stuff like that. But there's just brought back a lot of good memories just over the last several months. The last 3 events that I've been to is like, you know what, man, I used to travel the country in some cases around the world just to practice for those events. So it was it's how I supported myself from 03 to 06. I made my living exclusively off tournament winnings from Halo. So it just brought back a lot of good memories.
You must have missed it a little. I don't know how you can be such a champion and then cut it off with what almost seemed like cold turkey. You know, like did you ever think like, what if I had stayed a little longer and grind a little longer, or were you just kind of were justified in your decision at the time?
Well, had I would have quit competitive gaming. I would have quit still at around the same time. I would not have completely. I literally just almost completely went cold turkey. Didn't really have any contact with all but the closest friends from the Halo scene for almost a decade. And had I known Twitter was going to explode to the extent that it would have, I would have taken a little bit of a different approach.
Sure.
As far as me leaving competitive gaming, it takes for somebody that hasn't won a tournament before, it takes a lot of effort. You have to put in a lot of practice into it, and you have to structure your life in a way to where you're basically removing a lot of time-consuming distractions so that you can focus on grinding as much as you need to grind. And you know, when I took that top 8 finish, I mean, the prize pools weren't as high back then as they were now. You literally had to take first place. Like the MLG Nationals tournament every year, that had a worthwhile prize pool. But the local events leading up to that, I mean, you had to take first place just to double your money off what you spent in travel expenses. If you took second place, you broke even. If you were taking third or lower, you could only profit if you lived locally and didn't have to pay for airfare and hotel. So it's like you literally there was no margin for error, and it's part of the reason why I dominated this, or kind of a win or nothing attitude. Like my goal was to be a professional video game player and do something I love, turn a passion into a profession, and do that for a living. And the only way to do that back then was to get first place. So I kind of had to adapt an attitude and a mindset to where you're putting yourself in the best possible position to win for every event that you go to.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's you know, I would have taken a different approach. I would not have quit cold turkey. Like there was lots of opportunities that surfaced that I didn't realize were going to surface. So now I'm coming back after a 10-year hiatus and kind of having to rebuild relationships and stuff like that. And the Halo community so far has been great. It's been just some of the old faces that I've seen that I haven't seen in like 10 years plus. I got to see Ghost Zombie, for example. I haven't seen him since the Halo 2 days when at Anaheim. He was the coach for Fallen Esports. It's great catching up with him. So yeah, I've been loving making return.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I completely understand. Like, you're right. Like, if you go back, you know, if you're trying to make your entire living off of tournament winnings, the prize pools just weren't there. You literally had to be winning everything. So you must hold yourself to a very high standard to justify continue doing it if it's your whole livelihood. As far as coming back, though, I'm glad you came back now. I think, yes, you know, it's been a little while, but this is a pretty good time to do so. This is, you know, this is where the scene is building its roots once again. The community's coming together. We're setting ourselves up for Infinite. And of course, we have a release of games like Halo CE. We also have some gameplay here, by the way. This is some 1v1. What I also wanted to do is I wanted you to hopefully take me back to the beginning. Let's say it's 2001, the game comes out. Like, where are you? And because how were you introduced to Halo to begin with?
Okay, I was actually introduced to Halo. I didn't even pick it up initially on release. I don't even think I owned an original Xbox until about maybe 6 months after it came out. And I was working part-time at I think either Chuck E. Cheese or Brahms. I can't remember. I saved up a little bit of money. So I think I asked my mom one time to just buy this Xbox one time. She was out shopping and I pay her back. And when I got home from work that day, and she did that. And I actually bought it at first for Project Gotham Racing, believe it or not. I didn't even care too much about Halo. So my first experience with Halo was I waited for my brother one time to have for him to not have any obligations, my younger brother. And I think on a random Saturday, we fired up the campaign on normal, just co-op. And we literally did all 10 missions. It took about 8 hours for us to finish it. Like that whole day, we just spent, and we would abuse the respawn mechanics. If one of us died, we would just run all the way back until we're out of, so considered to be out of combat and just respawn each other. And, but yeah, that was my first real introduction into Halo. And it was, it was kind of groundbreaking back then. There really wasn't any other first-person game that really was like that. And I think it caught a lot of people off guard. And it really just is part of right. Halo was so dominant too, because it kept getting more and more popular with each subsequent release.
Yeah. So of course, yeah, you're right. Like the game was, when it first came out, there was nothing like it. Like I think it completely took over. But then how do you go from being somebody who's just enjoying the game, playing campaign, a fan of it, to going into tournaments and competing? Because I think you were in the second ever tournament, right? Because I think before that there was one tournament that Darkman won. And that was the first ever tournament in 2002, and then I believe you were right there, right after that.
Yeah, actually, I was in the tournament that Darkman won.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't advance to the national level. So that tournament that Darkman won, they did. There were 2 local rounds, and I can't remember how many people advanced in the local round, but I remember that I won it. There was a regional round, and then the regionals, you had to take first place to advance to nationals, and they had 8 regionals across the country. And I don't remember the game types were really just how they ran that tournament. They were really, I think it was rat race killing order. So like you would have to, and I have to explain this because this isn't really a game type that's played. It's oddball, but instead of holding the oddball, there'll be an icon over a random person on the map. And in order for your kill count to go up, you have to kill that person. You have to kill the person with a nab. So any other kill you get doesn't add to your score. And then the other game type was Blood Gulch Oddball, that's not a good FFA game type.
Yeah, not your typical competitive game types. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got 4th and 6th, and they basing on how you placed. I didn't advance from regionals. You got points based on your place. So I don't even remember if I may not even placed in the top half of the field for that one. But a guy by the name of DeSoldier, I think, won by regional, and he ended up getting 8th place in the nationals. But yeah, that was the first tournament that I played in, because before then I really hadn't. I hadn't done anything other than just play split screen with my brother and some of our friends. Like I really hadn't done anything else other than that. And that Halo Nationals tournament, when that first came out, that's when I first started doing some research. I was like, is there any other way that I could start competing in this game? Because I got to start playing against better people to get better. So that's when I learned about XBC and GameSpy. And I didn't even have broadband internet back then. So once I found out about it, I had to get permission from my parents to install broadband internet in my bedroom, set that up so I could start playing XBC. And Bungie.net had a social forum. Like it was like you could find local groups just to land the game, and that was really big back then. They don't need something like that now because none of the games support System Link and everything is online, but back then that was really the only choice you had if you wanted to play against other people. And that actually had a lot of activity. So that was the first tournament. And the second tournament was it was AGP. I don't know if did you hear about that when you were doing the research?
Yeah, so it was literally, I think, your second tournament that you won, right? The
second
AGP,
tournament.
So the first one was your second tournament was AGP 1, right? And then
right,
that was.
I did not win that one. The Dream Team won it, and that was for the 4-on-4. That was Darkman, Shiz, Chump, and a 4th guy by the name of Daigle. Yeah. And that was the only tournament I was aware of that Daigle played in. There was an FFA though, and Darkman won that FFA, and I got second. So when I got second in that FFA, I noticed there was in my opinion, Daigle was a very weak player. He was on the Dream Team because he was Chump's close friend, and he really just was not very good at the game. I could tell he hadn't played it a lot. And in the finals, actually, there was a Team Slayer on Prisoner where they actually just told Daigle to sit in the corner. Like he literally sat in the corner the whole game because he was so bad they didn't want him feeding him kills. So after I got second place in the FFA, Shiz, who was on TDT, he lived locally in the Dallas area, and I think I landed with him. Like I got his contact information, and we'd been landing because he was local to the area. And I mentioned to him, I was like, you know what, man, it's just I would like to join your team. And I think my exact words at the time or something, I was like, I'll do anything to join your team. He gave me a lot of you let me know that I said that multiple times. And eventually they replaced me with Daigle. And but my team that event got top 8, I think. And I actually was pretty optimistic going into that because we had practiced against Darkman's team. The event was Saturday and Sunday. We practiced on Friday night. and we were literally neck and neck in all the games. I mean, we took them to Game 5 in this LAN series we played, and I was like, we have a legitimate chance to pull this off. And unfortunately, we didn't. There was also another team by the name of Lords that was there that really just smoked our team in Blood Gulch. So we didn't properly practice that game type. So yeah, that was my first exposure, and that's how I got to I kind of just kind of put myself in a situation where when I saw the opportunity, I was available to take advantage of it. Because I mean, it's a lot harder to get on TDT if I don't see a weakling. But
right.
And I don't place high in the FFA. I just and I don't have that relationship to Shiz. I mean, I had those 3 ingredients. You just toss them all together, and boom, I was on the team.
And this team was a dynasty. This was the first dynasty in Halo, right? So you won your first event with this team. You won a couple events after, and I think along the way you formed a bit of a rivalry with the Ogre Twins as well. Tell me a bit about the Dream Team.
Yeah, the Ogres. I think the first event that I saw them at on a national standpoint was it was one of the Halo 50K events. I just can't remember if it was the first or second event. I'm just going to assume it was the first.
Okay.
And there was a free-for-all 4v4 and there was a 2v2, and my team beat them in the finals for the 4v4, so we were able to win that tournament. But the Ogres just completely dominated the 2v2. Like, they beat me and Alex in the finals of the 2v2, and it wasn't close. I mean, it was like 50-25 or something, whatever it was. It just was a domination. So yeah, that did end up forming a bit of a rivalry because they replaced one of their players after 50K won. God, what was the team? Was it Saiyan that got added? The Dominator was the guy they replaced. And then they became a really, really good team. And I think they were able to beat us at the next event because there was a pretty substantial hiatus between events, maybe like a 3 or 4 month window.
Yeah. So it was the 50K, the first 50K you guys won. It was the second 50K where the Ogre Twins won it.
I remember that too. Yeah, we got second that time. And
exactly.
To be fair, we didn't practice as much as we could have, but that's our fault because we were a little bit too arrogant. We're like, we're just going to show up and win the event again. And nope, that wasn't the case. Like the free-for-all, the only player that even made it to the finals of that was Alex. The other 3 members were all STK members. And it was the reverse equation at 50K1, where we had 3 TDT members there and only 1 STK. Only one of the Ogres made it through. And it was kind of funny, actually. We agreed to, it was a 4-man free-for-all in 50K1, and Darkman and I think it was Darkman and Shiz that made it. They were colluding with each other. They agreed to team up in the free for all, and they would only try to shoot me and Ogre.
Oh, no, are you kidding?
Well, we realized what was happening, so then Ogre and I started teaming together after we're down by quite a few kills.
Oh, nice.
And then it gets to the point where I think it was Darkman that won it. That he was at 49 kills, and Ogre backstabs me, even though we've been teaming together because we were both like neck and neck for 3rd and 4th place, and he takes 3rd place from underneath me. So that kind of behavior that's not allowed anymore because you can't collude.
Right, exactly. You can't do that. Yeah.
In the events, but that actually happened. So I can confirm that happened. There was no rules against that kind of behavior back then.
Yeah. That's the thing is this was so unprecedented. Like there was nothing like this really happening, especially in America, at least. And even at that point, was your mindset already like you want to be the best player? You want to try to make a living doing this? Like had you known like right early on the first couple tournaments, so this is what you wanted to be doing?
I didn't make the official leap until I made a lot of money in 1 month in 2004. But I kind of set the very like it started becoming a possibility because I was already at being able to land on the dream team. I was already near the top. And so that made it a lot easier to when the larger tournaments started happening. I was in a good position to place well in them because it was easy to get the LAN invites to start practicing against good people so that you can get better. I mean, if you couldn't get into those LANs, there's almost no way you could get better. It's part of the reason in World Cyber Games why if you look at video game esports, like the U.S. just gets trounced in almost every game except Halo. Halo was the one exception where the U.S. just completely dominated. I mean, just decimated every other country. And the reason for that is because the other countries, they just couldn't play against the good enough people. They were all basically fenced into the U.S. And back then, the internet speeds really weren't strong enough to support them being able to play across the ocean. So it's just, you know what, dude? It's just, sorry, rambling. Go ahead.
No, go for it. This is why you're here. You can ramble as much as you like. But just as you were saying that, though, I was thinking like, because the World Cyber Games, you got to travel to Korea to compete against other people across the world. Like, I've never seen an event like this for Halo before, where you're traveling to South Korea. On top of that, like, are you fighting with your family to do something like this? Are you really young at the time? Like,
I wouldn't say fighting with the family. There was a little bit of a dispute at first, and this is well before the World Cyber Games, where my parents really just wanted me to like other parents wanted you to go to college, wanted you to go get a well-paying job. And I was in college at the time, but and I was working a part-time job, but they knew that my focus was if there was a way I could jump into pro gaming, I was going to take it. And they didn't like that. So I won a local tournament one time I think it was a 2-on-2 tournament. And it was like $280, like a $20 entry fee. And I got a $280 prize purse was my share of it after I split it with my teammates. So I remember getting home that one night, my dad was sitting at the kitchen table, and I probably shouldn't have done this in retrospect, but I was just so pissed off that they kept telling me not to do this for a living. I took the $20 bills out of my pocket and just literally threw them on the table in front of my dad while I was eating his dinner. I was like, don't tell me I can't do this for a living.
Right.
So in retrospect, that was kind of a prick thing to do. I wouldn't have done that, but I just was so sick of him always being in my face because he was a big time top 8 personality. He was I think it was a general sales manager in the car business at the time. So he was used to telling people what to do. And, but yeah, man, it's just, go ahead.
No, you had to be bold. I like it. I mean, and that led to some great opportunities. It's not even just these events. Along the way came Major League Gaming, and you were the first players. You and your teammates, the Dream Team, were the first players to be signed with a contract with Major League Gaming.
Yeah, we were the first player. Dustin Langton, Darkman was technically the first one.
Okay.
Myself, Shiz, and Alex were right behind him, maybe by a few weeks. And yeah, it was pretty cool. I still have the management contract saved somewhere. I think I might have had a printed copy of it, actually, because it was just such a milestone moment. They basically agreed to take the role kind of as, I guess, our agents. I guess like a NFL player would try to have an agent to try to find opportunities to other teams. They were going to look for opportunities within the media and stuff like that for us to make appearances and stuff like that. They took on the role of trying to help grow us as players. So that was very unique to sign that. And I know for 50K too, actually, that's the first time we actually met. At the time, it was Michael Sepso and Sundance DeViani who were in charge of MLG. My understanding is the company was bought out a few years ago. So I don't think they're still in the top dogs in MLG anymore. But yeah, they took us out. They wined and dined us. They took us to a steakhouse in New York City after 50K too. So that was, we were treated well when we first joined with MLG.
Yeah, just the beginnings of esports in general in the U.S. and really, really cool to see. Of course, being a competitor, you need to be very serious about competition, and you can't really avoid some of the trash talk along the way. I managed to find some funny old moments of you you and Walshy. We'll get this.
I know exactly what you're.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Let's get an old clip up here with some audio to listen to. This is a legendary moment here. Hopefully you guys can hear it because I don't have it. I think the viewers can. Oh, you can't hear it? Okay. I'm pretty sure it's going through the stream. Oh, there we go. I caught the very end of it, but you know what you said.
Yeah, well, just to be fair, they actually encouraged us to do that. So that would not have happened. Like that was it was real, but it wouldn't have happened had we not been encouraged to do that. And it was one of the MLG staff members actually the one to do it. It's like, hey, why don't you guys just trash talk? I'm going to sit here with the camera and record. And I was like, okay, fine. We actually won that game. That was the only game in the series that we were playing STK. I think they were called themselves at the time. And that was the only game we won that they happened to be filming. So that was funny. That's where some of the comments came from. So,
right.
Like the 25 uncontested seconds in the middle that came there. That came from that clip.
Yep. And there's this is like the quote that's gone on, that's lived on. It's called teamwork, Hachi. It's the classic quote.
That was from one of the Ogre's montages. That's where that came from. I don't know if you were able to find.
I did see the montage, but I think the montage is trying to, they're trying to get back at you, right? But I think
I guess so. Well, whichever Ogre did it, I can't remember if it was Ogre 1 or Ogre 2. Like he had sent me a message on AOL Instant Messenger back when that was the way that everybody used to communicate. And he shows me the clip, and I'd forgotten I'd said that. And it was a lockout Team Slayer game where me and a teammate are just sitting at the bottom of the map. just dual wielding like SMG plasma rifles, and Walshy happens to run in by himself, unaware that we're both there, and we just he died in like half a second, and that's where that comment came from, because he had just a little bit of trash talk right there, and that was genuine. So I thought it was kind of funny that comment all these years later, that's like the things I'm known for, and nobody would have ever known about that had Ogre not thrown that on his
montage. Made the montage, yeah.
So he just happened to be recording that game.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice little bit of history. I was looking up the quote itself, and somebody, I can't remember the website, but somebody said this is a legendary line of Zyos that was then made fun of by the ogres in a montage called Teamwork Zyos, and then he has this other quote where it says, "This is from you." It says, "We lost for two reasons. One, we didn't practice. Two, Tupac, you were in jail, and Sergio, you might have to quit your job."
That is a true statement. That was after we took 5th place at I think it was Orlando with him.
Okay.
And I was really pissed off after we lost. And so Pocket, I think, had gotten a DUI before the event, so he wasn't able to practice with us. But he got out of jail and was able to travel down there with us, so that really hurt our chances. But in retrospect, telling Sergio he needs to quit his job, that's a little that's how serious I took it back then. That was my mindset.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's your life and your livelihood, then you can kind of understand where that mindset comes from. You got to be the best. You got to win. We do have an old interview from you as well that we can show that kind of showcases that also. Let's play up the interview and then we'll come right back.
Another interesting story here is the number 4 ranked team, Exit Wounds. They're led by 22-year-old Zyos, who's in his hometown of Dallas. Now, at one time, Zyos was the top Halo 1 individual player in the world, a bit different than Team Halo 2. And back then, he made a lot of money playing Halo 1.
These are the accomplishments that I'm most proud of. I like having these everywhere, just somewhat of a pride thing. I mean, I put a lot of effort into these tournaments. When you're the best in the world in something, it's a good feeling.
But Zyos is no longer the best in the world. He is part of a 4-man team that last week placed 4th. For most teams, that would be great. But for Zyos, 4th place is considered a failure.
Unless we're taking 1st place, there's something wrong. If we were to get 4th place again, there would probably be some changes.
Zyos' determination and dedication to win is known throughout the league, but his motivation is sometimes misunderstood by others.
I'm a lot more committed than most people, and I'm also one of the few that actually makes enough money to make a living off this full time. When you have teammates that refuse to get online to practice, that oversleep, that don't call you and go do something else that night, hang out with friends, go watch a movie, that's stuff that affects me, and that might affect me being able to make rent one month.
His no-nonsense attitude to dedication was witnessed firsthand by former teammate Straight Rippin's T-Squared.
Actually, I teamed with Zyos. We went to MLG San Francisco about 3 years ago when MLG was first starting. We ended up getting 2nd, and then he just, went haywire and said that our team wasn't dedicated enough. So he ended up not showing up to a tournament.
I've done some things in the past that I don't think were wrong. I always thought of them as business decisions, I've tried not to become really too close friends with any of my teammates because, I may have to team with someone else in another tournament.
One of Zyos' great loves is poker, a game where he can use his intense competitive skills and rely only on himself. Maybe he'll find a future in the cards. Here in Dallas, Zyos and his team's luck didn't change much. In round 3, they unexpectedly lost to EX 3 games to 2. Then in the losers bracket against MobDeep.net, they lost in round 6, 6 games to 2. Once again, sending them home early.
We're out the tournament. That's horrible. It got down to the wire and we choked. We had no one to play but ourselves.
Zyos had told us before the event that if they placed poorly again here in Dallas, 4th or lower, there would be team changes. They placed 7th.
Thanks, Sundance.
Yeah, so not gonna lie, I was thinking it would just play with us not on screen, but we we sat there and watched the whole thing as well. But a bit of a trip down memory lane there. Of course, like you said, you're very determined. You have a mindset for success. How do you feel looking back on that?
There's some cringeworthy moments on that.
I bet you're thinking that.
Yeah, but there are some things that I said back then that I still agree with because in my opinion back then, and it's still the case today, was how some of the pros approach the game. I just don't think they're disciplined enough. They don't have the right mindset to put in the effort and to commit to doing what needs to be done to get better at the game. And one of my comments that I heard said there was when the teammates won't get on to practice. That was one of my biggest complaints back then. And it's kind of after Halo 2, they stopped doing one-on-ones. And one of the reasons why I liked one-on-ones so much is it was completely on you. You didn't have to rely on anybody else. But, when in the team games, man, you could potentially make a mistake that costs your team the entire game. And so, it's very frustrating to lose. I mean, I made my share of mistakes. So, but it's also frustrating to lose when, there's situations where you would call out to your teammate to make a certain play. If they don't listen and they end up getting killed or something like that, it's very frustrating to have losses like that. And, there are times, like I said, teammates won't get on the practice. Tupac occasionally had that issue. He would occasionally in Halo 2 would bail if he was having a night where he was being a little bit frustrated. Those kind of decisions, if you cut a practice session short by a few hours, that really hurts us in the long run. And Gentron is another. He was on FFA for 2 events. The first event we played, and we didn't even have a chance to talk about them yet, but that was basically the team that after SDK beat TDT, FFA was the answer to SDK. So it was the top 4 people in the free-for-all. Walshy, Killer In, Gentron, and myself just all formed this super team. And we only lasted for 2 events, and Gentron was the reason why. Before the first event we played, we literally practiced together for 2 weeks straight, went to Walshy's place, did nothing but just sleep and play Halo for like 14, 16 hours a day. And the results showed when we got to the event. And then the next event, Gentron decides he still wants to team with us, but he's not down to practice 2 weeks in advance. So the only players that I think even practiced for it were Walshy, Killer In, and myself. And we just had to kind of throw Gentron in there at the last second. And we almost lost the event because of it, because our team wasn't practiced. I think we got knocked into the losers bracket and had to work our way back from the losers bracket to make it to the finals, and ended up winning 50-49 on Chill Out Team Slayer for the final game to win the tournament. So, and then after that, the Ogres, realizing what was going on, basically poached Walshy and Killer In from my team, and I was kind of left, I was kind of like voted off the island. So that was unfortunate back then. But yeah, there's some things, cringeworthy ordinance, like I don't know if I didn't hear this on audio side on my end, but I'm assuming the audience heard it. I said something to the effect of you couldn't have friendships or something like that. That I meant it came out the wrong way. It was when Pac was bailing practices early to go hang out with his friends. That's what I was referring to back then. It's like, you know what, man, that hurts your teammates. It hurt me, which is why I was so upset about it. And so that's what I meant by saying, like, you can't go out like that, because he would bail if he was getting frustrated. He just wouldn't continue. Yeah. So in retrospect, I wish I hadn't said that. But other than that, that was a pretty accurate representation of how I approached the game back then.
Right.
And so that was I think that tournament we got 7th place too. So that was it was not a good placing for us. We're very unhappy about it.
I think, like, for its time, that type of mindset is something that might have been a shocker to some people, because I think there wasn't really anything like that. It's like, oh wow, you're putting so much focus on video games, really? Video, like, it wasn't justified back then, right? But I feel like
it wasn't. And when I told people back in 05 to 06 that I was a professional video game player, there was a small percentage that would just, no matter what I said, they didn't approve of that activity. But there was also a large percentage where they would ask how much money I made. And throughout the entire span of that 3-year career, and this isn't nearly the same numbers as you can get in today's age. I think from 03 to 06, I made about 120 grand. That's everything: endorsements, prize winnings, everything. So, which back then, that was enough for me as a single guy to rent a small 1-bedroom apartment and support myself playing Halo. I mean, I could pay their utilities, I could feed myself. And usually those people, when I told them the amount of money I made, there was a percentage where, like, oh, okay. But I mean, I was the only one back then in the Halo 2 days that was really the only pro Halo player back then. That was pro in the sense of my income was completely determinant on how I did in these events. Everybody else was either living with their parents or they were living off some kind of college tuition assistance, and they were just living in a dorm room. So when a teammate skips practice or something like that, and I can't pay my rent because we get 7th place, that's something that's got to be addressed. So, and it's why, like, going forward, it's a shame too, because like 1-on-1s seem to have kind of taken a back seat to the 4-on-4 events. So I would love to see, like, and even arena style FPS games like Halo CE was, even those have taken a back seat kind of right now, the Call of Duty Battle Royale type games that have just dominated the market recently. So it's just, that's where I was coming from that. So, I still have some of the same discipline. I'm a little more mature now than I was back then, because, man, there's some cringeworthy moments on that. It's hard for me to rewatch that.
Yeah, no, my bad. I did not expect us to have to watch that together with it playing. Like it's like, oh, that was a moment. but honestly though, I think it's nice to have. I think it's a mindset that people in esports kind of have to have now because it is their career, it is their livelihood. So I understand where you're coming from 100%. So it's cool because you're one of the first adopters of something like that. And a lot of people since then, now it is their careers. Now it's justified. They, it's their 100% of their effort and their time. So really cool to see like kind of where it all began. And you were talking about 1v1s being like the identifying, factor that's something that you loved and something that was so great in CE. We did have that longest 1v1, the gameplay that came up. If possible, let's get it back up. And tell me a bit about 1v1s and what you love so much about CE. Because I know CE, like on first glance, it doesn't seem like it's super technical. It seems simple at first glance, but there's so much to it. From nade launching weapons and power ups and backpack reloading. And you got the double melee. So tell me a bit about this. And I mean, this is you versus Walshy on longest. I don't know this map too well.
So this is I think this is MLG Chicago that we're watching right now, and there's remember back then, like Wizard was really the map that you wanted to play one-on-one. Right. I said there's a lot of nade tricks, and it was just it was almost like a chess match. Like there were times where I would nade down a power-up with no intention of actually picking that power-up up, knowing that my opponent's attention was going to be diverted in that direction, and I would just go run through a port and go run up a ramp, a ladder, and go grab the other power-up. And but it was there's things that you could do in this Halo that really made it a good game for one-on-one. And Halo 2 also had the button combos that, really after those first two Halos, because Halo 1 had its own share of button combos, like you could double melee, you could backpack reload, throw a grenade and reload at the same time. There's probably a handful of others I've got written down. I just can't remember off the top of my head right now. And, dude, it's just being able to nade the different weapons to yourself. It was like it's a chess match. And, the power weapons or power-ups too, like almost the best analogy I guess I can use is trying to put on muscle, you got to lift heavy weights. And there's a lot of players. If you didn't start with Halo 1 or Halo 2, you probably don't know how to properly run the power weapons and run the power ups. It's a skill set you've never had to train before. Like I don't think a lot of people understand like the camo no S on most maps come back simultaneously at 60 seconds. There's some exceptions on some of the maps. And if you consistently lose that, you got to position your team right. If you consistently lose those power ups, you're just going to get rolled over. Yeah. And, even Halo 5, which it at least brought back some of the power-ups, but like they were on 2 or 3 minute timers, and I didn't like how the rocket would have an icon on it.
Yep.
I didn't like that feature of it because that way you know when somebody's picked it up if you didn't get to it first. And they don't have that in Halo 1. If you just don't position yourself properly, you get punished, and you get punished very, very severely. Yeah. And it took a level of skill that a lot of people as they play it on the PC here for the first time, if you match up against some of the old school really good players, like do not be surprised if they put up stats and if you catch them in social 4v4 of like 20 kills, 1 death or something like that. Mm-hmm. And because like that's the level of skill gap that's present in this game. But 1v1 is it's just you and the other person. There's nobody else there. And there's some of the, like, you don't have to, the respawns really aren't an issue on that. You don't have to worry about getting spawn trapped necessarily. There's no other teammates that can position you poorly. It's little things like that just really kind of made 1v1 really stand out. Yeah. And this game right here, Walshy could have won this. This was 15-14. Walshy charged at the very, very end of the game. He made one mistake. I think he thought I talked to him after the game. I was like, why did you charge there? And he thought I was wounded. He thought he'd hit me with a grenade that he actually had missed with. But if he just plays that right, I think he could win that. And Walshy's name was Sundance back then. I forgot that. Oh yeah. Yeah, you had a little more leeway back then. You didn't have to use your actual gamer tag, and I'm using the Z tag here. So there was actually one moment where Walshy made a huge play on you. I think it was like near 3 minutes 40 seconds or something, where you have, I believe, OS camo and shoddy, and he like shoots you 4 times and then does the double melee and just takes you out instantly. Yeah, it's actually crazy to watch. Yeah, it was crazy. Like he was I had to basically stop engaging him in close quarter combat because I don't know if he was doing this back then, but he was the first to implement the claw play style. Right. And back then I was not clawing. So anytime I got up close with him, he just decimated. Like right there, he double melees me. Like I couldn't even drop his shields and I was dead. Yeah. So it's like, you know what? I had to just adjust my gameplay to him, dude. And eventually I adopted the claw style myself towards the end of Halo 2. But there was a little bit of a transitionary period where I was doing terrible while I was still getting used to it. Nowadays, you don't have to really worry about it too much with the Elite controller having those back paddles and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, man, he was an innovator, dude. He was really, really, really good.
But like you said about the power-ups and power weapons, I totally agree with you, though, as well. With classic Halo, just you have to be it's so cerebral. You have to be so aware of where these items are and the moment they're going to come up so you can take advantage of them. Even more so in CE when you're specifically launching them. Like you have all these angles and the nades seem to land perfectly where you need them to if you throw them in the right spot. And you can perfectly launch yourself stuff consistently every single time, which I think is so cool. There's almost like no people do it in Halo 5, but because of the way the mobility works and the fact that you can throw yourself at weapons, there's not the same value as it is in Halo, where it's classic Halo, where it's like you move like a tank kind of, right? So you're limited in your mobility. You have to, like, there's huge value in being able to launch these weapons over to you. Halo 3 had that really interesting aspect as well called dirtying weapons. I don't know if you remember that, where the timers, once again, they were invisible. Like you didn't know when the weapon was going to pop, but if you managed to grab a weapon while it was spawning, it pops in the air and you grab it before it hits the floor, then the timer is essentially dirtied. Like it still thinks the weapon hasn't spawned. And if you continue moving on the map while you hold that weapon,
dynamic timers is what they call that. So like Halo CE had a static timer, so it doesn't matter when you grab the power up or when you grab the power weapon. You grab it at 59 seconds. You grab an OS at 59 seconds. It's coming right back in another second. But I think Halo 2 was the first that had a dynamic timer where rockets, for example, usually were 2 minutes. And in Halo 2, it would continue on a 2-minute timer as long as the person that grabbed the rockets initially burnt them all and dropped it. But if they held on to it, it wouldn't respawn until that guy got rid of the rocket, if I'm remembering this right. So you really could really mess with the timers of the game, because it wouldn't start until instead of being on a static timer, like whenever it was last grab / whenever the game thinks it's available is when it would come back out. It was strange. So it's just even the timing. Like right now, you can in Halo 1 you could double, potentially quadruple the power-ups if you position yourself right. You don't see it a lot, really, too often in competitive play. Like you'll see it on Prisoner if both people happen to be on top of the overshield. But there's just levels of detail that just aren't present in some of the other Halos, aside from maybe Halo 2. And like Halo 5, I don't remember seeing a lot of. There were nade tricks available, but they were nowhere near the level of how important they were in Halo 1. Like in Halo 1, you could counter a bad setup. Like Damnation's a great map where you're going to just see the camo naded down to the pit every single time it comes up. Like you're almost never going to see somebody be able to successfully grab that. Like if that camo's sitting there 5 to 10 seconds after it comes up, I guarantee you somebody's baiting it. Like there's somebody with a rocket pointed right at it. So it's just like those kind of details they're just missing from some of the other Halos. And I it'd be kind of interesting if they did a throwback classic Halo event, because there's some skills that some of the current Halo pros would have to teach themselves. I don't think they can right now. The current Halo pros, dude, I don't think they can really hang with some of the old school Halo talent right now in Halo CE. I mean, they can be taught what they need to know. I mean, their shots will be good, but the positional awareness of how to move themselves around the maps. I mean, there's things you have to do in this Halo that just aren't there. So, and some of the other Halos aside from Halo 2. I know I've said that 2 or 3 times. So
no, I hear you, and I think that's why we still have a bit of a Halo CE community. Have you heard of the Beachland by any chance?
I have. Yeah, I have not gone.
Yeah, because I feel like you'd be right at home.
I'm very competitive, so if I don't have a good teammate, I may not go. But it's that has a great turnout. Actually, I think they had like 80 something teams for it last time. Right. So yeah, it's the Halo community's got a lot of old people that still support the scene. In fact, that the community is still around is part of the reason that in UGC Atlantic City, they're even able to have a Halo 1 2v2 side event, that event as well. I mean, they literally brought back all these old TVs. And, it just doesn't happen with people that are just really devoted and passionate and still love the game. Yep. Like, I still love landing this game. Like, there's still nothing that just compares to this right now.
It's pretty awesome to see. They've done a lot of little things to kind of upgrade the experience as well. And they have like specific timers that count down that you can hear. And like I can't do it justice, but yeah, the Beachland does a great job with that. Like you said, still using the CRTs. It's like the Smash Bros. Melee community, where these games like they continue to live on because the game itself is such a unique experience in comparison to the other Halo titles. Like you can't find it anywhere else. So people just stick with it, like they swear by it, especially with CE. So really, really cool to see. And not even just in these gameplay mechanics. I know the spawns is a big part of CE as well. There's a more recent streaming gameplay of you. I don't know if we have it, if we can show that as well. There was just a little moment here on a map Prisoner where you had this one guy just stuck spawning in the same location. I think it has to do with his teammate, not really doing anything to help him out. I don't know if we can.
Yeah, this is prisoner 2v2. So
yeah,
I'm sure I'm recognized the moment, but you don't want to try to spawn your partner here out in the open, like right now where I'm aiming. That's exactly where you don't want to spawn. And
so you just keep spawning it.
Yeah, if you're in the blue tunnel, they'll keep spawning out there. So like this other guy that's hiding in a corner, not realizing he's getting his teammate spawns right. Here I am throwing nades because I know he's going to spawn there again. Yeah, so I mean that's like somebody that isn't aware of the spawning system in Halo 1. And this is really something that another skill set that other Halos you didn't have to worry about. Like Halo 5, all it does is put you away from the enemy team. Yep. And there's some maps where you're playing Halo 5 where I know where they're going to spawn just based on where our team is located. In Halo 1, it just spawns you on your teammate. It doesn't care if you're in the line of sight of an enemy. So like this guy right here, dude. Okay, finally his teammate moved or we killed him or something like that. But yeah, there's times where you'll intentionally try to keep one guy alive because he's positioned so poorly and just spawn trap the teammate. And so yeah, right there, he's not positioned himself well. So it's unfortunate. He doesn't understand what's going on. So like the other teammate may not realize that he's playing badly right now. And this is one of the reasons why you don't want to necessarily look too much at KD ratios. They're a very critical stat. But this guy right now that's been spawn trapped by his teammates
can't do anything.
0 and 10, but it was his teammates' fault for giving him those 10 spawns. So that's why you got to be careful with that. Just relying exclusively on that statistic.
So a really interesting example of skill gap here as well, though, right? Like just having that intimate understanding of how the spawns work. And if you have that, and especially if the enemy team doesn't have that, they can end up in a situation where there's literally nothing they can do to counter your play there. Unless they move and they know how the spawns work. But just, really cool to see. And that you can extend that and say, in certain scenarios, you spawn your own teammate in a very specific location. Like if you want to give your teammate a top spawn, you have to know the areas of the map where you need to be standing so that your teammate spawns above you in a good spot to pick up a power weapon or whatever. So really cool. And it's something that I don't expect we'll ever see again because, people don't like being spawn killed like this, I'm sure. But it's just there's so many little unique things of Halo C that I think, like you said, make it such a special game. So.
Yeah, just the spawning really on 2v2, like Prisoner and Hang'em. Like we're watching Prisoner right now. This is one of the maps where if you don't understand the spawn mechanics, you're at a big disadvantage to the skilled 2v2 team that does. Yeah. I mean, there's times where you may not want to spawn your opponent on top or your teammate on top, depending on how they're positioned. Like you can easily spawn somebody. It's called Red 3, which is basically the level right above where I'm standing right now. You can spawn them up there very easily just by getting right underneath that ladder in a specific position. But good teams know to look out for that. So if there's a guy on top overshield, they're just going to pick your teammate off. Yep. So you got to be aware of just little things like that. And this is one of the reasons why 2v2 it's so popular right now within the Halo communities, because in 4v4s, you can't control which one of your teammates you spawn off of. Right. So it's not nearly the same level of focus. And but on maps like Prisoner and Hang'em, dude, you'll watch people once you realize what's going on, they'll literally just try to random their spots on Hang'em, where if you stand in this specific position, there's actually no response for your teammate to spawn on you. So they'll just spawn randomly over the map. So and you'll just watch over and over again, like just people sitting in random spots. Like if you see that a really good player doing that, it's probably a random location. Mm-hmm. So I just haven't seen anything like this. I mean, where you've got to focus to like just again, it's just another edge that you can push against somebody that doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Which makes me think, because we're talking a lot about CE and all these classic games and what makes them so great. Let's try fast forwarding. Of course, we're in a period here where we're waiting for Halo Infinite. We have CE that just came out today, and hopefully you'll play that a little bit too. But what do you want to see in Halo Infinite? It'd be interesting seeing from your perspective.
Okay, well, what I want to see is, in my opinion, Halo as it continued to. This was particularly when Bungie was in control. So Bungie, for those who don't know, they released basically the first 4 Halos. So
right,
they came out with Halo 1, which I heard later. I think this is true from one of the programmers, that they didn't even intend to release it with multiplayer. They made a decision like 3 months before the game was supposed to go out. It's like, okay, let's go ahead and throw this on there. Yeah. And in my opinion, it's almost a fluke that the multiplayer is as good as it is. Like if they had more time to properly sit back and think about it, like the pistol, for example, the time to kill on it is just so ridiculous, dude. Mm-hmm. It just can drop people so quickly. Yeah. And then Halo 2 comes out, and that game took less skill than Halo 1 because they nerfed it. Like they nerfed the Matrix quite a bit. They took an approach from Halo 1 to Halo 2, then Halo 2 to Halo 3, where they were appealing to the casual players. And I think what was happening was in these old school arena style FPS games, players don't like to lose badly. And, I was actually fired up a stream before, about a 2-hour stream before I hopped on to interview with you guys. And I was seeing people in the chat, like I played a longest TS game where the other team didn't even do that bad. They lost like 50-30, and they were claiming, like they were complaining in the chat saying like, when is Halo 3 coming out? This is terrible, blah, 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 blah. I was thinking to myself, it's like, you're lucky that was longest and not Hang'em, because you'd have lost like 50-10. I mean, you actually have one of the better map setups for you there. But, people that lose by that large of a skill gap, they tend to quit out early. And I kept seeing a pattern where Halo kept catering to the amateur players.
Yeah.
And it got all the way to the point to where I think this is going to be a very unpopular opinion with some of the people that are listening, but Halo 3 was probably the best-selling Halo of all time. I know that's where a lot of people got their start. From a competitive standpoint, it was a horrible game. It was a terrible competitive title, and I don't think there's a lot of pros right now that are going to try to defend it. And had I done things properly, had I positioned, had I been properly, I didn't do a great job maintaining the relationships I needed to within the community. It's my opinion, I probably could have taken Walshy's spot on the initial, when FFA broke up, and I definitely 100% could have been on their Halo 2 team when they were looking to replace Killer N. Wow. If I'd just been anything, even remotely friendly to those guys. And looking back on it, I really had no problems with any of them, dude. The Ogres were pretty cool to hang out with. Walshy was a great guy to spend time with. They just were really top competitors. And going back to the question, Halo Reach, which is we just had this tournament in Anaheim. And I made a point to where if I was interviewed for this, I was never going to say this on the live stream because, 343 didn't make that game. Bungie did. Right. But it was the worst, easily the worst of the competitive titles. And at least when it came out, like back in the day, there were no playlists. You were forced to play with Bloom on, and Bloom was just...
It was horrible.
It was horrible. And like every tournament that they ran for MLG, there was a different winner up until the finals. And all I saw was this Bloom mechanic just randomizing the game, but that's what Bungie wanted. They didn't want they figured that if you mess with the pros like this, then that the amateur players aren't going to be dying as much, and then hopefully they'll have player retention. They wanted to keep people around. And Halo 5, Halo 4 came out after that, and that was competitively wise. It was a small
Halo
step
4 felt like it.
There were things that needed to change, and then Halo 5 was almost halfway back in the direction, in my opinion, of Halo 2 and Halo 1. I'd probably put Halo 5 as below Halo 1 and Halo 2 in terms of skill. So what I want to see for Infinite is I want to see it go back in the direction of arena FPS. I don't want to see recoil on the guns. I don't want to see Bloom on the guns. I want absolutely no aspect whatsoever that randomizes the shots. I want the shots to land where they're supposed to land.
Right. And,
in games like Counter-Strike, and you have those recoil mechanics, dude, there's times where you're going to lose kills. It might not have been your fault. It's the spread's messing up your shots. Your cursor may have been exactly where it should have been, but that person's going to kill you instead because of a luck element. It introduces an element of luck that doesn't need to be in the game. I want to see some of the skill-based mechanics that are present in Halo 1 and Halo 2 make a return. And, I heard a rumor that Halo 5 Mythic Arena might potentially be kind of what Infinite is heading for. And if that's the case, I'm very excited about the future for Infinite, because that was basically Halo 2. When I was playing Mythic Arena, if you had a chance to play that was essentially.
I did, yeah.
It was very, very skillful game. They took a lot of the movement and arm abilities out, and thrust was still there, but it was so nerfed that it wasn't even worth using. And it just reminded me back in the old school days where if you positioned yourself poorly, if you ran out of the middle of the map with no teammate to support, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're dead. And that's how it should be. So, I want to see them go back in that direction. And I really want to see Halo, honestly. I want to see it return to the top because, had some of the infrastructure, like Twitch, for example, had that been properly set up back when I was competitively gaming, I would have never quit the scene. Because right now you don't even need to necessarily win tournaments to play games for a living. If you have a strong personality and you can entertain people, you just become famous. Notorious, however you want to look at it, dude. You can make a living doing it. And
definitely.
Ninja still got his start as a Halo competitor.
Yep.
So now he's blown up, and it's just kind of crazy seeing the potential now. So I want to see it go back in the arena FPS direction. And they've released so little about it too. It's supposed to come out later this year. I'm hoping at some point.
Yeah.
They'll release some information about it, because I've got nothing but I don't know what you've seen. I've seen 2 E3 trailers, and that's it.
I haven't seen anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So
exactly.
I've seen no gameplay. It could be anything. So it's just almost want to try to sneak my way into 343 Industries, dude. Gonna go up there to Seattle and just figure out.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a couple things you mentioned though. I'm not a CS guy. I don't know too much about CS, but I don't know how I feel about when you said the random aspect, because I feel like that's a big part of the skill gap for CS though. I don't know where I'm going with this, but as far as controlling the recoil, like the top players know how to control that perfectly, I believe, so that they hit.
It requires
their
you to
shots.
sit still, and it's not
right.
It is not hard to hit a stationary target. It's a lot more skill based for you to be moving around and trying to hit a target without worrying about that. So it really just slows down the game. I mean, I actually enjoy watching CS from a spectator standpoint. I was watching it in between Halo matches in Anaheim. Yeah. It's just not a game I like playing. Recoil is one reason. Not being able to respawn until the next round is another reason. And like I just watch these people take certain angles at certain maps and they won't move. They'll just hope the other person runs in that line of sight. It's just not my kind of game.
Very different style of game.
Yeah, so I prefer the action-oriented respawning. And like for example, over the weekend in Anaheim, dude, like I think Sanctuary CTF takes a lot of skill. Like I could tell what the teams are doing when they're about to try to cap a flag. And usually they'll try to spawn them in the rocks, but not always. And if you get them trapped in the rocks, then I'll see them run the flag. It's just a lot harder to cap something when it's a CS. You don't have to plant the bomb. I mean, you could just kill the other team and win the round. And in Halo, you can't do that. You got to get the objective, and you have to get the objective when they keep respawning. So it's just not. I know there's a lot of CS people. It's never been those kind of games. I just can't get into them, dude. Fair. So I want to see Halo go back in the arena FPS game. It's a shame too, because back since the early 2000s, Quake is a great arena FPS. Unreal Tournament was also really good back then too. And then just unfortunately, Call of Duty kind of took over. And once Call of Duty started selling really well, people started modeling the Call of Duty formula. So now we've got all these mechanics, in my opinion, that are just really bad for the games. They just I bought the most recent Call of Duty Modern Warfare remake, and it's okay. I mean, it's fun, but I mean, I would never want to compete in that for a living. It's not enjoyable.
I hear you.
So that's my opinion. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think a lot of stuff with especially with like CE and Halo 2, the arena style of gameplay, kind of bringing that back, because I feel like you're right. Arena style gameplay is something that we haven't seen a lot of recently. It's been kind of low key, and hopefully it does make a swing back. I know we're all focused on battle royale and even Call of Duty is a different style of arena. We talked about this before the interview though, was time to kill being such a cool aspect to Halo, and this video that I had seen that talked about time to kill. Specifically, like in Halo 2 and Halo CE, especially Halo CE, it's so different compared to like a person who doesn't know how to shoot very well and a person who does know how to shoot well, right? In Halo CE, it's a 3-shot kill. It's like you said, I think you said 0.6 seconds versus if you don't hit headshots, you're looking at how many? What's it, like 7 shots or something?
It's 5 shots in Halo 1, assuming they don't have overshield. Then the default kills somebody. So like the default kill for Halo CE is the same time to kill on the DMR, but you would have to headshot the guy, basically.
But you'd have to,
and it's Halo 1 again. That how much skill the pistol took to use. I still haven't. The BR is essentially a nerfed pistol. That's all it is. And I still, even games like Quake, I can't think of in any weapon that those other arena FPS games have that even came close to the pistol. The pistol was basically a super weapon. Like, it was so powerful that you had to spawn everybody with it, because if you didn't and somebody happened to spawn closer to it than the other team, that you literally wouldn't get a kill on them.
Yeah.
And it's just that's why we had the generic starts instead of the custom starts. And some of the first tournaments were custom starts. So you'd spawn with a plasma pistol on Prisoner or something like that, and then they realized, no, we got to switch it to generic and give everybody the pistol.
Right.
So it's just it was 0.6 second time to kill, and it took a lot of skill to use.
Yeah.
There was there's little things where if you held the trigger down instead of single firing it would actually there's actually a bullet spread on it, so your shots will start landing all over the place. So you had to learn little things like how to aim it. If you're strafing, you're going to have to learn how that's affecting your shots too, because that's going to affect the shots where the shots land. And it took a lot of skill to use. Yeah. And I just can't think of in Quake, and I guess Doom would be another good example of Doom 2003 Unreal Tournament. There's no other weapon like the sniper or the railgun. It's like a sniper is basically railgunning somebody's a no scope sniper. That's the way I've always looked at it. But there's no replacement for the pistol. I can't think of any other gun that kills somebody so quickly. It could kill it from, it's almost always the best weapon to be using, no matter what situation you're in. Very, very rarely is it not the best weapon to be using. So that's how powerful it is.
I just guess the beauty of it is the fact that it's so rewarding to players who understand how to use the weapon well. If you're very accurate, if you know how to use the CE pistol well, you are rewarded by getting much faster kill times. It's not like your typical, like you think, oh, Halo has a high time to kills. 0.6 seconds is very fast to get a kill and then move on to the next guy. So if you're at that high level, you can wipe out teams, you can get overkills very quickly. Even with something like Halo 2, where you have the button combos that were introduced, they like if a top player was hitting like double shots, he'd melt a player in like less than half a second or something, right? So just the fact that players are being rewarded for being exceptional with their gun versus somebody who, maybe doesn't hit all headshots, it takes significantly longer. I think that's a really cool aspect of skill gap that was lost with games like Halo 5. And I wonder if they would bring that back, right? Because Halo 5, a good example is if you do have perfect shots, you get a 5-shot kill. If you don't have perfect shots, it's a 7-shot kill. There's not too much of a difference in timing between the two. Of course, it still could be crucial in an important moment, but it's not like a Halo CE pistol where if you know your stuff, you're just wiping them off the map. So I wonder if they could try to find a way to make shooting more difficult and add more nuance to it, but reward the players who shoot well and have that kind of dynamic. I think that's something that needs to come back personally. But
I agree with you too. And they actually did that a little bit with Halo 5. I remember they I think the pistol might have been a 4-shot kill at first. Or they did something, or maybe they took the aim. They did something to nerf the pistol.
Oh.
And the Halo community at the time, the competitive community, actually approved the change because we thought it would take more skill, but they were doing it to give people that were using the automatic weapons more of a chance. But I mean, so I'm hoping that they get Infinite right. And, they put like, what, 500 million into developing it. They're also going to release it on the PC simultaneously. They didn't have to do that. They could have just kept it next Xbox exclusive and forced you to buy a new console. So when I see decisions like that, I was like, they're backing the franchise. They're not just using it as they're not just trying to pump the sales to the next console. They want the game itself to be successful. And I see something like that encourages me.
Yeah. It does feel like now more than ever, there's an opportunity for Halo to swing back into the forefront. And when you think of, like you said, social media and the platforms that we have now, it can go from where we are now, which is relatively unknown, to huge in just a couple weeks. Like you talk about Ninja, who's massive. Ninja is playing Halo Infinite. If he loves it, continues playing it. That's tens of thousands of people who are constantly watching his stream, plus any of the other streamers. So there's a lot of potential there for sure.
I think that's why Mixer picked him up. They were lining this up in advance. There's no accident there. I saw exactly what was happening when they picked him up. That was smart marketing right there.
Yeah. So before I let you go here, we do have a couple questions in the chat that I just want to get to here. We got Vicksburg Halo says, question for Zyos. Some say that the golden era of Halo 1 has stronger players than the players of today. You have competed in both eras. What are your thoughts? Have you competed in both eras, though? But what are your thoughts?
Well, what does he mean by both eras? It's Halo 1 players, the ones that were good, were the ones that were on the top two teams in particular. They were very, very skilled. And so there's maybe 8 to 12 players that I would probably name that I felt like in their primes could beat anybody else in their primes. It's hard for me to compare the Halo CE players to the Halo players of today, because I don't know how they would fare.
Yeah.
And there was less players. There was less total people in the Halo CE tournaments. I will give that out there. But I don't know, man. Like for example, if the next Halo event is let's say there's a throwback tournament for Halo CE since that just came released. Let's say it came out within the next 2 weeks. If the teams that placed well in Anaheim tried to compete against some of the best skilled Halo 1 players, I don't think they have a chance right now. They would have to learn the skills that you haven't that you've never been taught because you haven't played. You got in the scene after these skills had already been removed from the game.
Yeah.
And so like right now, Halo is, I don't know, it has a unique place in my heart, dude. So like I got a lot of respect for the old school Halo players because they played Halo, in my opinion, when the game took the most amount of skill. And Halo 2 also was, Halo 2 was half the reason I stopped competitive gaming because I didn't like it as much as Halo 1. But even that was still light years ahead in terms of skill levels compared to some of the Halos that came out after that.
Yeah. I mean, something I notice about these games, though, is it's very easy to to like at first glance play a new Halo game for a bit and think like, oh, this isn't, as skilled or as interesting as the last ones. Like that's definitely how I felt when I went from 2 to 3 as well. Like with Halo 3, it just felt slower. There was like equipment, you throw out a bubble shield or whatever, and it just seemed kind of cheesy. But then, as people played it, and Halo 3 isn't as technical as the other games, but it has those other nuances, like, like I said about dirtying weapons and, core aspects of teamwork, and even just using projectile aim and properly leading your weapons and your snipers. It's like later down the line, you recognize these little nuances that you maybe didn't see at first glance. Like that's how I felt about Halo 5. I feel like a lot of people just dismissed Halo 5 because they're like, oh, you can sprint, you can thrust, whatever. But now, like if you go watch any of my content, there's a crazy amount of depth in the movement mechanics. Of course, shooting is maybe more simplistic, but it's interesting with these Halo games. There's always more that meets the eye. I find you have to kind of like try to just grind it for a bit and just get rid of all the preconceived notions and your feelings of the past titles and just play it as is, and then eventually you might learn something really cool. But I don't know. Anyway, Halo in general.
Halo 5 was a step in the right direction, dude. It was definitely a step in the right direction, in my opinion, in terms of skill level. So I know there's some people that really didn't like it because of some of the things in it, but I personally thought it was a step in the right direction. I mean, but I had a different frame of reference because I was here at Halo from the beginning. So even though I didn't compete in some of the other Halos, I did play them. So like Halo 3, like you said, I didn't like the bubble shield. I didn't like the maulers.
Yep.
The BR had a spread in it that Halo 2 actually had at first, but then they patched it and fixed it by accident. So the BR didn't take as much skill to use. So just little things like that were just then I remember the construction cones too on whatever map that was. Pit, I think it was. Just little things like that. So
yeah, there is a bit of a randomness to the BR spread in Halo 3. That's a little unfortunate. Yeah, a lot of little things like that. But overall, all these Halo games have their unique, awesome aspects. Jay Ozzy says, how much were nading weapons power-ups used in the earlier events?
The earlier events, they weren't used too much. A lot of people didn't know a lot of the tricks back then. And actually, we talked about timing. Would you believe that the first event first event I was with TDT, the second event that TDT won, we were the only people there that were even timing the weapons when they came back. We had we had this clock that I had bought from I forgot where I bought it, some like Walmart or something like that for $20. We would put it on top of the television to time the power-ups, and after the matches were done, we would try to hide it because we didn't want anybody else to realize what we were doing. Yeah. And that Halo tournament at the time had like 300 something people, and I remember still thinking to myself right now, out of 300 something people, it was my idea to start timing in the first place. Like I was like out of 300 something people, like we were the only people to have thought to have done that. Wow. And back in the day, there weren't a lot of nade tricks that we knew about. But as we kept progressing, I mean, I remember the first nade trick I taught myself was how to nade rockets on top of Battle Creek, and that was I just randomly positioned myself randomly on top of one of the bases, threw a nade up there. It's like I want to see what happens, and by stone accident lands right where I'm standing. Wow! And from there, it was a matter of just trying to find every other map where you could nade weapons to yourself. And it became really, really prevalent towards the later stages, but it wasn't too much in the beginning.
Yeah, and that's where you just end up spending hours just like finding specific angles and tossing. Yeah. I was watching a tip video from Ogre 2 a little while back, and there are some angles for nades where you need to use the sniper because you need a 10x zoom so that you get the specific and chill out, right?
I actually figured that one out, so I don't know if anybody else figured that out, but just I put myself in the corner, and you can nade the rockets on chill out to overshield. So it's if you have a teammate waiting on OS, you can I would throw a pre-nade first to try to clear anybody off that platform if they already have control of it, because you are conceding control of that room. But you can literally nade it, bounces off the window, ideally lands. You can grab it yourself, but ideally you'd already have a teammate that grabbed overshield and you can grab it. Like little things like that, they're just such nuances. Like hang 'em high, particular, like nading the snipers to back red and to blue. That's a critical skill. And it's 4v4. If you can get a sniper in your hand, it's very effective. And you saw that become a lot more prevalent in the later Halos.
Yeah, it's wild because that just becomes fundamentals in the game. Like if you can't do it, you're screwed. Like you're not going to get those weapons. So
you're at a disadvantage. Like the grenade tricks, they give you a way to get map control back that you otherwise couldn't get it back.
Exactly.
About those tricks. Like it's a way to
Are we there?
Still there? Yes.
Okay, yeah, I froze. I don't know. Okay, cool. But I got what you were saying as far as regaining map control using those tricks, which is like incredible. Griffo Lion says, question for Zyos. What do you think about the lack of competitive Halo superstar? MLG tried hard to make their top contracted players household names in the gaming world, and they achieved that. Now it's not so present. No more giant banners of Walshy Karma or T2 at events, autographs, etc.
Okay. Back then, MLG was trying to build itself up, and honestly, there's a lot of drama I can go into with MLG back in the day. They made some mistakes in their infancy, and I'm hesitant to criticize them for some of their past mistakes because the people that were in charge are no longer there. But I would like to see some stars, potentially some big time name personalities, be promoted for some of these events. They don't necessarily have to be signed pros necessarily, but that was kind of an exciting thing to do because even though after I left the competitive Halo scene, I mean, I was seeing T squared on Dr. Pepper bottles, and stuff like that. So I mean, that's huge exposure. And I think there was a photo on the internet of Obama getting, I think it was Obama, and there was a T squared Dr. Pepper bottle like right next to this tabletop. Where I think it was Obama. I can't remember who it was exactly.
Okay.
But actually, I don't know why it'd be Obama, but it was somebody. It might have been when he was a senator.
Right.
But,
right.
Yeah, it was. It's like that's the kind of stuff I want to see. That's a lot of mainstream exposure. But there's also back then, we have Twitch now. We have streaming platforms. There's other ways for these people to get known. Yep. So there's other ways to do besides just the leagues trying to build these players up. But yeah, that was kind of a unique aspect back then. Now that you think about it, because you don't really see that a lot anymore.
Yeah. And you're right. It is kind of like up to the players as well to build a brand for themselves also. And I think, it's amazing that we had that with Halo. But the other aspect is the fact that Halo was it. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't too much else out there that was king. Like Halo was king. So I think it makes sense that they really broadcasted these individuals. Nowadays, when Halo isn't as popular, you have like the leaders in esports aren't Halo players. They're players of other games. So there are amazing players with amazing personalities that I hope get that backing that grow and explode when Halo Infinite comes out. But for now, it's kind of harder to have those superstars when the game itself doesn't have the popularity. But I think that needs to happen for Halo to live on. I think it's these types of personalities that grow the community and that allow the game to live on. So
exactly, it would really help. I think that's part of the reason, circling back to why Mixer signed Ninja. They're going to probably have him all over Infinite when it comes out. And looking at the Twitch numbers too, when they first dropped MCC on the PC, and first day they had upwards of 140,000 viewers at the peak, but it was really just 5 or 6 well-known streamers that were pumping that population. I mean, that's actually, believe it or not, dude, and having those players pick that game up as their primary game, that's a lot of exposure. That's a lot of exposure. Now, the people watching that are going to want to pick up that game. So, I definitely think that's one of the things they could do to grow Infinite. So is to get some of those streamers to, I don't know, maybe like do some kind of tournament or something like that, like Apex Legends did, where they invited all the very beginning. They had all those top streamers. I still remember it. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant marketing. And it's like even the people that don't place in the top 4 of the 20 teams you get, you're still getting all that free advertisement because they're going to be actively firing up their Twitch streams while they're competing in the tournament. It was brilliant. So I think they could definitely take a page from that and do something similar when Infinite comes out.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, when you think of Halo being Microsoft's largest first-party franchise, it's launching alongside a new console. Like, come on, let's get some superstars here. Let's get some big events, especially like you said, like the Apex one, where you have all these massive personalities playing together. I think that'd be great. Legacy's Folly says, also, do you think an arena-style game with intentional button combos could have a market? So I guess instead of stuff that we're discovering organically, they actually add button combos into the game.
That could have a market. I would expect it to be a niche market. If the game is properly made and it takes a lot of skill to play, there's going to be a lot of casual players that aren't going to stay with it. So that needs to be kept in mind. But yeah, I do think there could be a market for that.
I think if it's explained in the right way, like not to be that guy, but if somebody could just let me make the video explaining to people how these button combos work, or somebody who can explain it well, then you can take something that is, somewhat complex to do and make it digestible and make it exciting to learn and to practice and to get good at. So I think it's a combination of seeing what's possible if you hit those combos and it being explained properly so people can, get behind it and whatnot. But yeah, I understand that having a game that like has that layer of difficulty right from a get-go can deter some people, but it's those types of things that allow games to continue to succeed. It's why Super Smash Bros. Melee has a $250,000 circuit, and the game came out 20 years ago. I don't know if you heard about that. They got a Smash circuit now happening.
Smash is, I love seeing how old school that, because I played a lot of N64 Smash, but not so much Melee. I just think it's cool how they've stayed together all these years to make something like that happen. Yeah. So that's just epic. So, a game's been made right when was it like? It's almost
2001. Like, it came out the same time.
It's almost 20 years old. And so they're still playing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I like that's testament to the depth of the game and the fact that the pros, they grind it, they become good at it, and they love it. And then they showcase that to their community, and their community thrives. Like that's what I think we need. Difficult games can lead to passionate players, basically. So
exactly. And I want to see a game that's done right, whereas they keep playing it, people keep learning new tricks. Like bringing back the Smash example, there was a recent Smash tournament where you probably heard about this, some 15 or 16-year-old girl, I think it was, used a character that everybody else had written off as a terrible character, and basically won the whole tournament just running this whole character through that's the level of depth.
I don't know this, but
yeah, I heard about this. I assume it's true, but yeah, she basically used somebody that
is it
started generating memes. Like
maybe it's Smash Ultimate funny. Or
what's that?
Is it Smash Ultimate or is it Melee?
It was the newer Smash.
Okay, an Ultimate.
Yeah, so it wasn't the old one, but it was obviously that game's new, so people are still learning it. But
yeah, but the same thing happened in like 2014, which is like 13 years after Melee comes out. It's 2014, 2015. This Japanese player named Amza, who plays Yoshi. Nobody mained Yoshi at a high level. He's a low tier. Comes in and he beats Mewtwo King, who's a top 5. He's like a god of Melee. Anyway, this is a whole other discussion. But that stuff happens, and it's crazy to see that you have games that are so deep and nuanced that you can have moments like that, and those are historical moments in the game's history. So cool stuff. Save Case Slayer says, do you think Legend and Patch are the two best players currently in H1? Do you follow the H1 players at all that are still playing?
I do. Right now, they are the champions on 2-on-2. Yeah, so they are two of some of the best players. There are also some other good, really, really two, like Twisted and Zorg are actually really good. STK50's gotten really good. Both the Ogres, when they still play, are actually both pretty decent as well. Yeah. So, but you don't always see them on Ogre Ones in Australia now. But yeah, they're right now. If there was a 2v2 event, I would expect Patch and Legends if they don't win it.
Yeah,
they're dominant players right now. The last event that I saw them compete in was UGC Atlantic City, and nobody came close. I think there was one team that took one game from them, and that was it. So yeah, it was. They right now they are some of the best Halo CE players out there.
When you watch those guys play and compare it to yourself back in like 2004, does it look totally different? Like there must be brand new strats you haven't seen or techniques and whatnot.
Well, the way they SMON manipulate the maps, like they kind of did after Halo stopped having tournaments, and it's a shame too because in my opinion, and I know I'm in the minority right now with the Halo communities, I think 4-on-4 takes more skill than 2-on-2. There's some objective game types like CTF, Oddball, and King of the Hill that just cannot be properly run on 2-on-2. But the 2-on-2 community loves to spawn manipulate. That's something that I really see Legend and Patch do just very, very well. And but unfortunately, it's led the 2-on-2 community to be kind of narrow-minded, and they will only run the same 5 maps over and over again. And there's other maps that I think are actually decent maps for 2-on-2, but they don't play them because they can't spawn manipulate in them. Ooh. And like Battle Creek was one of the maps that eventually I started getting people to agree to do that on LAN, but you can't spawn manipulate in it. So I was like, this is a really good map for 2-on-2. Like it's a chess match to win the Camo and OS battles. You can nade the rockets to yourself. I mean, it's a skill-based map. It should be in the rotation. It should be out there just because you guys want to play Hang 'em and Prisoner all day and just try to randomly spawn your teammates and hang them. So yeah, that's one aspect I've seen it change in the twos is because that community was really the only community that stayed around, so they've become really kind of a dominant voice right now. Mm-hmm. And there's other game sites, there's other maps too where Rat Race isn't completely awful for 2v2. I wouldn't recommend it in a 2v2 tournament. There's other things you could be doing. Like I understand what's motivating the current pros right now, why they do this. They only choose the same handful of maps. So Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, rambling.
No, interesting point. I didn't consider that as well. Yeah, like they're being very focused on spawn manipulation. Of course, that takes a lot of skill as well. But there are other viable maps that play well.
It's just 2v2 TS definitely takes more skill than 4v4 TS. I'll say that. But
right,
there's too many players that it just 4v4 objective game types have the potential to punish selfish players that only care about their KD ratios, and particularly in a game like Halo 1 where you could literally spawn screw your teammate. Yeah. And Halo 2 had this to some extent as well. And if you're not careful, I remember one game where T Squared talked about this, but it was Lockout King of the Hill, and all he was doing was just sniping people going for the hill. He was just stat padding his KD ratio, and the other three of us kept trying to charge the hill and take it over. And I think the hill was on top BR on Lockout, and he just would not leave the sniper platform. And we would keep spawning there, and they would always have one guy left alive, and they'd be spawning by the hill, and they kept getting more time there. And it got to the point where I was like, dude, we got to the point where like 3 of them were dead. And T Square was the last one of us alive, and I wanted him to push library. It's like, dude, just push library so we keep stuck. You're literally spawning us all the way across the map from the objective. And his answer to me was, I just got 3 headshots. That's exactly what he said to me. Like, he didn't
doing all the work. Come on.
His mind. In his mind, he was playing great. Yeah. But in reality, it was really hurting the team. It's like, if you just pushed in library, they were all dead anyway. We would have spawned there. We could have overtaken the hill. Instead, that last guy that's still alive is going to spawn his team there. And, those kind of players, they don't get properly punished in 2v2 TS. So I like seeing those players that's why I like 4v4 CTF objectives. Oddball and CTF in particular, those players can really hurt your team. And it's one of the reasons why, if you're relying on a KD ratio, you don't want to be, they could stat pad that stat. It's not the end all be all. It's definitely an important stat. But like, if somebody's stat padding it at the expense of the team, then, that's not a good thing. So I hope that answers the question.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's interesting because, team play being like such an important part of classic Halo, that's changed a lot as well. With Halo 5, you can make a lot more individual plays that you would never make in classic games. And of course, teamwork is important at the highest level, but it's changed a lot. The selfish plays you get away with a little bit more nowadays. But the dynamics a little different. I wonder how they're going to change things with Infinite. I'm really curious. But our last question to close things out, we got John Smooth says, what's your thoughts on H1 MCC and all of its obvious issues, since it's a port of H1 PC and not the original version of H1, therefore forcing the H1 community to still play the original on consoles? Do you know about this?
Yeah, I'm aware of the differences between the original Halo and Halo 1 and MCC. Now, I will say that it's in a better condition now on MCC than it was when it first came out. Halo PC, to be honest, I preferred that they try to port the original Xbox version instead of just port the PC version. I get why they did it. The PC version was originally set up for online play, but it was done in a way that was very, very, very poorly done. And in the MCC's defense, there are some issues in that version that I don't see on MCC. I actually really enjoy playing MCC on 60 frames per second. It's very noticeable when I go to the original Xbox and it drops to 30 FPS. It's extremely noticeable. And the original Halo on the Xbox had it's a turnaround glitch where if you turn around too fast, your shot will, like, if you had rockets and you try to spin around, the shot won't land in front of you. It'll be glitched. And I don't see that on MCC. But yeah, there are some issues on MCC that honestly, that when the game first came out, they shouldn't have ported the PC version. They had the you couldn't trust what you were visually seeing on your screen. They had to add audio cues, just like the original Halo PC, just like I remember, because I competed in that game back in the CPL, to tell when you were hitting people. So once they fixed the netcode on that, which right now in its current condition, it's almost like off host has advantage because they're getting some aim assist and they're getting credit for shots they shouldn't have gotten credit for. And it's one of the things that we recently noticed was that if you try to host up a game in a custom lobby, dude, and you're doing fours, man, the host is at a pretty big disadvantage now because the shots land where they're supposed to land, but everybody else is getting this compensation that they added. So look, man, it's just right now at this day and age, I'm grateful that MCC is at least available to be played on. And I know when the game first came out, it really was. I bought an Xbox One for that, and it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. Yeah. It was. So I wouldn't surprise me if anybody turned back in their Xbox for a refund back then. But it's grown. It's a lot better. And I did play the PC version earlier today, and I played it during the beta, and it seemed fine. I mean, I didn't notice any big differences between that and the MCC version. I know there's a lot of old school. Like, I'm not going to be on the hate bandwagon for the MCC version of PC. There's some areas where I see that it's improved. But if I had the choice between which one I'd rather run a tournament on, then yeah, I'd rather do the original Xbox. So, but that's kind of where I'm at on that issue.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's nice, like you said, that there is Halo CE on PC, and hopefully that can inspire players to try the original version or something, or hopefully we can somehow get people who are leaders of the Halo CE community or Beachland or whatever to somehow work more closely with 343, or find a way to try to fix and implement these. I don't know what it would take to bring things over to the way that it was with the original version. But clearly there are a lot of people who are very passionate about that and want that to be preserved. But yeah, it is kind of unfortunate that it's not quite there. Hopefully that can happen. Or like I said, hopefully at least this being on PC can inspire people to go play the original version.
Compared to the original, it's still very fun. It's still very fun.
Exactly.
From a competitive standpoint, I can see where some of the complaints are coming from the old competitive community. Like the original Halo Xbox version as is definitely is more skillful to play than the MCC version right now. That doesn't mean that I hate the MCC version. So, I'm not going to get on the bandwagon. And 343, to their credit, they've done a great job with their community outreach. It would not be hard at all for me to put some of the old school Halo pros in touch with some of the 343 people. And if they were curious for our feedback, we'd be happy to provide it. I'm sure they probably already know. They do such a good job with the community interaction.
Yeah.
So, that's another something else we could also do. But, they've been even the beta, dude. And I thought they did a pretty good job listening to feedback on that as well. Yeah. So, and here we are a few days, or not even, what is it, like maybe a week after, no, not even a week after the beta's ended, they've already released it.
Yeah.
So
hopefully we can keep up that kind of time frame so we can get Halo 2 and Anniversary.
Absolutely.
And there's 3, there's so much more to go still. So hopefully they can get that all out. And then Infinite, that's the big one we're all waiting for. Still have yet to see gameplay. No idea what it's going to be like. And hopefully we love it. You made a good point though, as far as 343 and their, connection with the community and just being more connected now and listening more. And I think that's a great precedent set for sure. But I guess now it's just a waiting game. But yeah, just overall, just having you on the show today, it's an honor to have you on, man. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad that my schedule synced to where I could accommodate this. This has definitely had a lot of good fun, a lot of good questions. Some cringe-worthy moments with the old interviews and myself, but I need to say that. Remind myself as I'm coming back to the community not to behave that way. So that was fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me on.
I do feel like you're very well loved coming back. So it's nice to see you back, man. And nice to see Mantra, starting off the year by winning a championship. So kind of going forward, of course, we're waiting for Infinite, but what do you think's kind of next for Mantra in preparation?
Yeah, it's just, we need to figure out what tournament's going on first. We signed the person that won Diagram. I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but he won the Reach FFA in Anaheim. So we signed him, but we're not even sure if the next event will be Reach right now. So if they throw a Halo CE event, then obviously I can potentially make a return for that.
Ooh, that would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how fast they release the games, if Halo 2 comes out within the next month or so, I would expect them to probably do a Halo 2 event over a Halo 1 event. That could probably generate more teams. So
do you feel like you still got it though? Sorry, not to interrupt you. Do you feel like you still got it? Like if you were to play Halo 1, yeah.
Yes, I think I can compete at a high level. If it was 4s, I would absolutely form a team. If it was 2s, it's going to take people like Legends and Patch, they've been playing this game like every weekend for like the last 10 years. So I probably wouldn't try to challenge them on 2s there. But if it was 4s and you have the proper objective game types like CTF and King of the Hill and stuff like that, then yeah, I would absolutely make a return for that event. And I still think my skill level is pretty high. And so, I don't even play the game that much anymore, but I have played it enough to at least keep familiar with the mechanics and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's everything for today's interview. So yeah, just thank you so much, and just looking forward to seeing what Mantra has next, and whether it's CE, Reach, whatever it is, and then what happens in the future with Halo Infinite as well.
Absolutely, we're excited about the future. We're looking forward to it. Thanks again for having me on.
No problem. All right, guys, that's everything for today's episode of HCS Weekly. Remember, guys, if you like this show, you can watch it on a number of different platforms. You can, of course, watch the past broadcast on Twitch. You can also go to youtube.com/UGC events. You can listen to it on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, a lot of different places to keep up with HCS Weekly. So go check out those platforms. You can watch this episode and more, of course. That's it for today's episode. We'll be right back next week, same time, with more HCS Weekly.